Hey guys, in this video I wanted to take a couple of minutes to demonstrate how to receive a job deposit in Service Fusion using the FusionPay by Service Fusion integration. And so of course guys, receiving a job deposit takes place at the job level. So we'll need to be inside of a job, specifically viewing a job in order to perform this action. You can get to a job in a handful of different ways. Global search is certainly one of the more popular ways. I can insert my customer name as the search term, and I can see any jobs that might be associated with that customer. Simply clicking the jobs entry and the returned results will get me into the job. And because this will allow us to travel into this job in view mode, we'll see our action icons in the top right corner of the job screen here. And the deposits icon will be where we initiate this function. Now, something to say about job deposits. Job deposits are one of two different payment methods that we can receive inside of Service Fusion. I always like to show this from the accounting drop-down menu. On the right-hand side of this menu, we can see that we have two different views for payments, one being invoice payments, and then of course what we're reviewing here today are job deposits. So we do have those two different forms of payments in Service Fusion. And today we'll look at the job deposit form of payment and what it looks like to receive that using the FusionPay by Service Fusion integration. So it's interesting to note that this job does not have an invoice associated with this. If there ever is an invoice associated with a job and you're receiving payment from your billable entity, then we want to make sure that we utilize the other form of payment in order to receive that payment from the customer. In other words, if there is an invoice, it's always advantageous to receive the payment as an invoice payment. So this condition of this job would be appropriate. We know that we don't yet have an invoice. If we did, we would see that present on the current status row of the job info section of our job screen. And so we don't see an invoice present. We don't see that the status is part of our closed job status category of statuses, indicating that yes, this has been closed and that we would have an invoice present for this thing. So this would be an appropriate situation where we would receive a job deposit against this job. So not for nothing, in all reality, we would check to see what's the total of this job. Do we have any existing payments or deposits associated with this thing? And in this case, we can see we don't yet have any monies received against this job, as well as we can see that total due is $379. We have a product and a service. It looks like in our rate table that's driving this total of $379. So if we required a $50 deposit or $50 upfront prior to the initiation of the job, then we could receive that as a form of payment from our customer while reviewing the job. This is a back office only function, so this is the exact screen that you want to be in to initiate this action. And in our bank of action icons in the top right corner of our job screen, you'll notice that deposits action icon. We simply want to click on our deposit action icon, and then we're brought up with a payment processing dialog box. Now, the first thing that we'll want to do is make sure to pick a payment method that will utilize our payment integration specifically. So there's a separate video, guys. Make sure to check that out if you have any questions on which payment method is the appropriate one to receive. Typically, especially if I'm receiving a card from a customer, I'll simply choose the card type, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. In this case, we'll choose I believe it's a MasterCard that we want to choose. And then notice that the fields underneath payment method change a little bit whenever we utilize a payment method associated with our FusionPay integration. So now I have the ability to either add a new card, and I would simply start typing the card number if that were the case. And I also have the ability to process an existing card on file. So we'll go ahead and choose a card on file that we have already saved for this customer. And because this job deposit that we're receiving will eventually be converted into an invoice payment, it always makes a lot of sense to include a memo on a deposit that, yes, this payment originally was received as a job deposit. And here I'll have an opportunity to include the amount of the payment that we'd like to process. In this example, we'll choose $50 for our processing amount. We can verify that we have the card on file information already entered. The system populated that for us, and we'll simply choose to submit that transaction. You'll notice a hesitation while the transaction processes, and then you'll see a couple of different things change on the screen, most notably at the top of our payment dialog. We'll see a transaction successful notification. We should see that green bar associated with this message. And on the right-hand side in the transaction history section, we'll also see a summary of the payment that was received. And not for nothing, guys, this is where I can also initiate email distribution if I wanted to send over a receipt. If I had a receipt template created, I could email then, hey, customer, thank you for allowing me to process your payment. Here's a copy of the receipt for your records. And then we would see this outstanding now is reduced from $379, incorporating that payment and credit that we just received, the payment for $50. Now the total outstanding for this job is only $329. And that is how you receive a job deposit in Service Fusion using the FusionPay by Service Fusion integration.